Good morning, class. Don't get up. Welcome to TCG School, and today we're going to be covering marketing your game and how to do so. As you know, in this year, 2026, there are many different TCGs on the market. Everything from the big three of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic, not to mention all of the new games that are coming out backed by major corporations and franchises such as Star Wars Unlimited or Disney's Lorcana. This industry is littered with fallen soldiers who have left us much too soon. Yes, you with the hand. My indie TCG has no large franchise attached. I have very little money and I don't know how to draw. The market is super saturated and the economy's depressed, and also I am depressed. How do I get anybody interested in my game? Whoa, buddy, watch it with the hardball questions. All right, this is just school. We're talking about practice. But you're my teacher. And you know what they say about teachers, right? Those who cannot do, teach. Ain't my fault. So let's tackle this impossible question. Why even make a TCG in this saturated market, and how do you even find your customers? We're going to use Miryiad TCG as our example as we analyze why players might flock to a relatively unknown card game or what keeps them away from it. And yes, this is a sponsored video, but Miryiad's creator Justin insisted that I dissect his game with as much objectivity as possible and give my full unbiased critique, which really is putting your money where your mouth is. So thank you, Justin. Everybody thank Justin, especially because I know for a fact there are several of you out there that are way more qualified to judge game design than I am. I'm just some schmuck who people like to hear talk for some reason. So here we go. Why did this guy think that making a TCG was a good idea? In this economy, well, you see, the guy grew up loving games like Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, who didn't? That shit was awesome. The spiky hair had me running to the store for hair gel on Halloween. But as time goes on and people grow up, they start to play games in a different way. Gone are the days of grabbing piles of jank from your shoebox and constructing a barely functional deck for fun. Today, it's all about optimization. Everything from having a linear game plan to constructing your deck to get to said game plan as fast as possible. It seems like the more you play as an adult, the more ideal your strategy needs to be. Obviously, this isn't the case for every game mode. Something like Commander is more casual and open to jank. But even then, your deck is built to do the thing it's meant to do more often than not, rather than function like a toolbox ready to tackle any given scenario. Being a fan of 1v1 formats, Justin wanted to recapture that element of freedom and choice that early TCG games brought to the table, while minimizing the negativity that comes with the feeling of getting screwed on your mana or your opponent snowballing into oblivion. And thus, Miryiad TCG was born. And yes, that's how it's spelled. Off the bat, I admit trying to get Miryiad up in a Google search was a bit tricky since I kept forgetting how it's spelled. One can also argue, however, that the misspelling might help with search engine optimization, as long as you get people to remember how to spell it. But the name does illustrate the point of the game. Simple cards on their own, with a myriad of ways to play them. Ha! You have awakened your inner soul and become a vassal. As such, you can trade in a piece of your soul for the power to command other souls, spirit-type creatures often inspired by or resembling real-life myths. Your goal is to grow your powers by defeating other vassals who happen to command souls of their own. But before we talk about the gameplay, we need to take a look at the cards. First impressions are everything, and the way that the cards look might be the thing that hooks people in first before they even see the gameplay. They're fine. I have to admit, they look more engaging in person than they do online, so I'm glad I was sent some for testing. For your creatures, aka souls, the Yu-Gi-Oh influence is evident from the big bold number on top that goes from 100 all the way to 8,000. At least that's the largest I've seen so far. And I like how clean and legible everything is, which is extremely important. I mean, look at these effects and compare them to a modern day Yu-Gi-Oh card. No wonder Yu-Gi-Oh players can't read. read. Look at all that. That said, the art for me isn't what's compelling about the game. The stock, plain colored backgrounds leave little to the imagination, and even some of the images of creatures themselves can be a little fuzzy. It's tough, because if you yourself are not an artist, you really are at the whims of those that you can afford to hire to do the art part for you. And that's not to disparage the work of the artists here, who can all draw circles around my talentless ass. It is ultimately up to the game's creator to convey the image of the art direction they have in their head. And I know we have to take budget into consideration, so I can see how the artistic decision with the static backgrounds, it helps keep the costs down. I just don't personally find this particular style compelling, although Justin did let me know he's going to work with a graphic designer to sort of polish up the looks of the cards. What I did fall in love with aesthetically, however, are the life cards. These are awesome. Styled to resemble the open pages of a book with sketch notes on them, I love the flavor they bring to the game, which draws heavy inspiration from the SCP Foundation monster hunting case file thing, with brutal horror supplemented by the occasional cute creature. And now, let's talk about the gameplay, because how the game plays is where I believe it truly shines. To start, you take your deck of 39 cards along with 3 separate life cards and put them face down. Wait, 39 cards, why? Because with a deck of 39 cards, you can have an even playset of 3 cards throughout your deck. No awkward 40-card decks that lead to one of your playsets needing to be reduced. 39 is also half a tarot deck for extra flavor. To win the game, you need to land a successful attack on your opponent directly while they have no life cards remaining. Each player gets 3 soul points to use on their turn, which they're action points. You can use a soul point to flip a face down card face up, play a soul from your hand face up or face down, declare an attack with a soul, or ready a soul, which gets used after attacking and must be readied to attack again. Souls are our creatures with a single attack value, an effect, and a life cost. You can place your soul anywhere on this 9-square grid. If played face up, you can spend a soul point to attack, even on your first turn. We're gonna need some fail-safes for that. But before we get there, let's say we're in combat. This is a lane-based game, so when you attack a soul in the opposite lane, starting from the front row and moving backwards. Just like Yu-Gi-Oh!, its highest number wins here. But the difference in attack values isn't what causes loss of life. It's that little life cost in the corner of the card. When a soul is destroyed, it's sent to the owner's abyss, aka graveyard, and that player takes damage to its first life card equal to that soul's life cost. And that's how you get rid of the pesky life cards that your opponent has and get closer to winning the game. But it's not a free ride from here. Yeah, a life card being destroyed is bad news bears for making progress, but almost every life card has an effect that triggers when destroyed that benefits you. So even though your opponent made progress, you still have a chance of slowing down their momentum or even overtaking them. Not only that, for every life card of yours that is destroyed, you receive an extra soul point on your turn to use. So every turn, instead of getting 3 soul points, you're getting 4. When designing the game, this is what Justin hoped to minimize. That feeling that everything is spiraling away from you and you have no conceivable way of coming back. You may be wondering why one would choose to play a card face down. In combat, you can flip a face down card face up for no cost if your lane is being attacked, acting as a surprise blocker. It's also an evasive maneuver since face down cards aren't considered creatures and dodge a variety of effects. Finally, we have our final card type, the Wits. They're spell cards, yeah, but they cost no soul points to use, so like Yu-Gi-Oh!, use as many as you like. But they do sometimes have a cost where you have to damage your own life to play them, so don't be too careless. They're still a great option for furthering your game plan or interacting with your opponent. At the start of your turn, you draw 2 cards from your deck and you're off to the races again. Whew! And that's it. Okay, I have thoughts. It's overwhelming at first, I admit. But I think there's a ton of fun to be had here. In my test game with Justin, as I was learning the cards and the mechanics, I often found myself overwhelmed by the amount of choice I was given. Each turn you can choose to use one of your life card's abilities, which are different from their when destroyed ability. So you're constantly looking at which one is most beneficial to use, which is often decided by what's in your hand. And thankfully, Justin is stuck to each card being simple for the most part. Despite that, it's amazing how much each card can open up a multitude of lines for you to take. This is thanks in part to the grid setup, as strategic positioning between the front, middle, and back rows can impact the game in a number of ways, and 9 different spots for you to interact with, not to mention keeping your opponent's positioning in mind, is a lot. It also comes down to your wits cards, many of which don't even have a life cost attached to play. They're great facilitators in keeping your game plan moving and evolving. I took Justin's advice and cracked open 2 booster packs, which is what he recommends for beginners to do to learn the game, as each pack is seeded with the cards needed to play a quick demo game. And while the cards do have loose archetypes, they are factionless, so everything synergizes more like Yu-Gi-Oh's old battle packs optimized for sealed and draft play rather than today's locked-in archetypes. And getting a few more practice games in with myself did help me see the flow of the game and understand what it is that people are loving so much about it. It also helped me understand where some of the problems of marketing the game might lie, and how Miryiad can utilize its strengths to overcome that. When Justin set out to make a game, he had something competitive in mind. Something for the hardcore TCG enthusiast. However, he found this group of players reluctant to integrate despite a gameplay loop that Justin felt solved a lot of issues in modern day gaming. He realized that competitive TCG players were indeed looking for the thing that he was rallying against: optimization. They love having a linear game plan, getting their deck to function in the way that it was built to do. Miryiad is all about choice and flexibility, and getting the original target demographic to buy in has proven difficult. Who ended up gravitating to the game? The newbies! Those who hadn't had much experience with TCGs and who felt like they were playing a game more than a series of intricate systems. I mentioned to Justin that it's possible that those less familiar with the standard rules and conventions of a TCG might be more accepting of a less traditional experience. After all, TCG players hear no resources and play any card you want, and shiver at the thought of Yu-Gi-Oh's power creep. One example of this is card names being on the bottom of the cards rather than the top. A bit inconvenient for viewing the names of cards as you fan them in your hand, and certainly breaks convention. Another is the renaming of certain terms. Tapped being used, graveyard being abyss, soul points being action points, etc. One could argue renaming these terms only adds to the mental load, since thematically they're so similar anyway, you might as well keep the original labeling. Spirits going to a graveyard wouldn't be so weird after all. I can see established TCG players being thrown by these choices, whereas people new to card games will just accept them for what they are. For instance, I don't really think new players will care about where the names are placed, while experienced TCG players might view the design choice as inherently wrong. Justin's done the legwork in going to conventions and running demos of the game, which I agree, I think is going to be so important for showing non-TCG players his TCG. You know, like at tabletop gaming expos, board game expos, stuff like that. But to try and verify where his community has come from, I went to his Discord and asked everyone some questions. Where did they hear about Miryiad? What do they like about it? What problems do they foresee for the game, etc. We got people who played it at conventions, from others who had recruited them into the game, and friends of Justin himself. And his wife, of course. We love a supportive partner here. Honestly, having friends become involved and stay involved might be the most impressive part. You might think that's easy, but anyone who's ever tried to get friends to do something like watch something you've made, it can be difficult. A friend who stays with your product because they actually like the product and don't just like it for you, that says a lot. Just like my sister, who says even if I wasn't her brother, she'd watch my videos anyway. Best compliment. People specifically mention the elements of the gameplay that keep them hooked, such as specific zones to prevent never-ending board states like you might see in Magic, or the action point system that eliminates mana entirely. And most importantly, they all highlight Justin's openness and approach to community building as the reason they believe in the game as much as they do. That's something I love about indie card games, is you have access to the creator. Imagine being able to ring up John Konami and shoot the shit about Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the changes you would like to see, or the things you want to praise them for. You can't, but you can talk to Justin about Miryiad. Of the issues they foresee for growing the game, it mostly comes down to the lack of players. Onboarding can be a difficult task with players entrenched in their established games and newbies feeling intimidated by the concept of a TCG until they sit down to actually try it. I suggested to Justin that he put together some constructed demo decks with specific cards in them that each highlight the interaction and gameplay choices in the game. Something simple and less overwhelming, but turns out he doesn't need to listen to idiots like me for advice because he had thought of the same thing and is almost finished on said product. Card rarities exist in typical TCG forms, with super rare, gilded rare, and serialized cards providing treats for the fans, and an introduction to what makes TCGs so fun for those new to them. A quick side note, while I'm not the biggest fan of serialized cards in games like Magic because they encourage price hikes and scalper hoarding, those issues obviously don't exist in indie games like this and are more so cool rewards for the fans to find, so I'm fine with it. I have a ton of respect for Justin and all game developers that put themselves out there in an effort to bring their vision to life and in order to help with community building. In this day and age where the third space for fun and social gathering has been minimized, it's lovely to see people out there who continue to plow ahead and try and retain that space for all of us. If you're interested in trying out the game, I have all the links to everything down below in the description. And let me know if this sort of indie discussion and dissection is something that you'd like to see more of. Thank you to Miryiad for sponsoring the video, and thank you Vince Kai-chan for the music. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.